Taoiseach, just to assure you at the beginning, I'm very calm, just in case you're concerned. But last evening, EU Commissioner Wren bluntly told you, despite all the government's leaks and spins, that Ireland must pay the £3.1 billion promissory note in 2 weeks' time. And he arrogantly claimed that respecting commitments and obligations is a key tradition in the EU law. Since when, Taoiseach? This law was never applied to France or Germany when year after year they both regularly breached their stability and growth rules. But to differ on, Taoiseach, French and German leaders stand up for themselves and their people, just as the Spanish PM did. Agus seachas a bheith ag seasamh leis an dictadh in Brussels, tá sé ar dulgas agat seasamh leis our bubble. You won't do this, Taoiseach. You acquiesce at every turn, and you expect Irish citizens to pay for your folly. You're very, very clear about this. Stealth taxes, cuts, VAT increases, septic tank charges, the household charge. You insist that Irish people must pay for the greed of bankers and developers, no matter about the social consequences. £3.1 billion, which you will pay at the end of this month, is the equivalent of 19 years' worth of household charges. £3.1 billion, which could create jobs and stop our young people from emigrating. This works out, Taoiseach, at approximately €688 for every single man, woman and child in this state this year. So, Taoiseach, we cannot afford it. Why don't you start a real negotiation? If you don't ask, you won't get. Tell the ECB now that you will not and cannot pay this £3.1 billion.
Taoiseach.
I want you to understand in your calmness, Deputy Adams, and in your patience, this government is quite prepared to stand up for our country and for our citizens. That's why we already acquired a year extra to meet our targets of a reduction to 3%. That's why 10 billion savings was brought about for the taxpayer by the interest rate reduction. We're well able to stand up for ourselves, but I think in the context of the process, and we are Democrats, as you are well aware, it's very important that we allow the process of negotiations which are underway, initiated by the Troika, to conclude here. And I'm not coming into this House, Deputy Adams, to be drawn into a situation where it's stray outside that particular remit. We know what's important here, so do you, so does everybody else. We've made the point quite openly that it would be an encouragement arising from the Troika's initiative if flexibility in respect of these promissory notes, which are a legacy debt to our people, could be brought about. And in order to achieve that, there have to be discussions and negotiations. Those negotiations, Deputy Adams, are underway for some time now. From that perspective, I want to see that the officials and personnel on all sides, with all elements of this, who are dealing with it, be allowed to do their work.
Deputy Adams.
Well, Taoiseach, you say this is about terms and conditions. It's not about write-down. In other words, you are going to pay the £3.1 billion. It's just over what period you pay it and how long that's going to go on and how many generations have to put up with that. You also say the negotiations are detailed and technical, as if we didn't understand what negotiations were like. But last night, Minister Noonan said that the promissory note did not feature on the agenda of this week's Finance Ministers' meeting and will not feature at the next one. And the reality, and this is the elephant in the room, Irish citizens are paying for the greed of Anglo, for big bankers and for developers. And you keep saying, and this is, I don't get this, I mean, I've got it after a year of listening to you, but you keep saying that this is how it must be. You say we never looked to a debt write-down. That's why you're not going to get it. You're not looking for it. And Taoiseach Tatu are on slí míceart Tatu or an taobh míceart agus tá sogat go bhfuil slí alónach Tatu ag glacu rawa. Níl an arrogant ugging. You also say that we're not going to have the name defaulter written on our foreheads. Taoiseach, you are defaulting. You're defaulting on your election commitments.
Question, please. Thank you.
You're defaulting on your office as Taoiseach and your responsibility to the people of this state and this island. So Taoiseach, You need to say it very, very loudly and very, very clearly that we will not pay. We cannot pay. And then you will see a real negotiation.